What is up, people, and welcome back to part 53 of my F1 2016 career mode here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. If you've missed Season 1, Season 2, and the first 10 rounds of this third season, you can go catch up with the card annotation in the top right-hand corner of your screen. So if you click that, then you can see everything that's happened over this career mode so far. But we're here at the Hungarian Grand Prix, which has sort of been a good and a bad track at the same time. Season 1, we crashed out, was not a good race for us there. Season 2, we came back a lot stronger. We had a fantastic race in Season 2 and got a really good amount of points there. And then, so Season 3 could be a difficult race for us. It might not be. This is going to be a track that we should struggle with because the Force India doesn't necessarily have a lot of downforce on the car. So we may struggle in terms of the downforce that we have on the car. But we did do a few upgrades after the British Grand Prix. So let's head over to Chris and see what he has to say.
Hi. I've got something you'll be interested in. Those performance upgrades we discussed after the last race. They're on the car and the data looks promising. Take a look at the details.
So last time out at the British Grand Prix, we decided to upgrade our chassis weight, not actually our downforce, even though I went on a little rampage of how I'm going to upgrade my downforce because it's going to be better for the car. But in the end, we actually upgraded the chassis weight because I completely forgot about why I upgraded. But we actually upgraded the chassis weight, and McLaren Honda have upgraded their car as well. And Toro Rosso have still managed to upgrade their car. How have they not maxed out that car? Surely that is it. Surely that has got to be the last upgrade that they ever make on their car. They've surely have to have maxed out. Just look at their vehicle performance comparison. It's so far ahead of all of the other teams. But looking at ourselves, we are now third in the tables in terms of vehicle performance comparison. So that's really good. Just behind my old team, Renault, which we will be hoping to catch up with within the next couple of races. But let's see how this affects the performance of the car as we head over to practice. Here we are in practice for the Hungarian Grand Prix, and as usual, just getting on with the team objectives, the same old objectives that they always set for us. So here we are going round the track acclimatization at the moment, coming down towards the line, and it was a perfect lap. Well, a near perfect lap. We had 3 greens, but in the end, it was a purple score, which means we get loads of resource points to spend after this episode if we have enough of them built up. So at the end of the day, it was 22nd position, but I always say this, times do not matter in FP1 or FP2. It only really matters in FP3 when you do the qualifying objective. But here we are coming down towards the line. We're doing the tyre wear management, and as you can see, that was absolutely perfect. 105 out of 105, a purple score, and that adds to the pile of resource points we already have banked going into this episode. So that's absolutely fantastic at the moment. 22nd position once again, a 124.1. Not the best, but lap times do not matter. But here we are doing the qualifying one at the moment, and this is where we kind of lost it. We just couldn't get the time. We just could not get the time around this track. We've been doing well over the last couple of races where we've been able to get at least a green score in the qualifying objective. But unfortunately around Hungary, maybe we're just because we're lacking downforce, we really struggled with that, and it was 14th at the end of the day in the practice session. But even though that is the qualifying objective, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to exactly get 14th position in qualifying. Some of the other guys running on different tyres, but we may be able to pick up our pace in the qualifying session, so we just have to wait and see. So without any further ado, let's head over to the qualifying session for the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's time for qualifying here at the Hungaroring, and unfortunately it is raining. That is a huge surprise going into this race weekend. We weren't really prepared for rain, especially as all the Friday practice sessions were completely dry. So this start of the qualifying session is all about building my confidence around the track on this wet surface. Unfortunately now down in 10th position right at the back of the field, of 139.62, over 2 seconds slower than Sebastian Vettel, who is currently the provisional pole sitter in Q1. But here we are coming around the final corner once again for our second lap here in qualifying. This is 2 seconds faster than our previous best lap time. It's good enough for 8th position. Not exactly where we want to be still. We still need to find a lot more improvement in this lap in order to be battling with the likes of Sebastian Vettel and the Toro Rossos as well. But it's definitely an improvement. Here we are on our third lap and our final lap of Q1, coming around the final corner 5 tenths quicker than our previous best time. We're currently in P11, so that's still safe at the moment. But this lap time puts us up into 6th position of 137.2, and that's definitely going to secure us a place in Q2, which is absolutely fantastic, and that is exactly what we need to do in qualifying. We need to make up for what happened in Britain, where we got dropped out in Q1, get into Q3 and hopefully challenge with Toro Rosso's for pole position. But 14th position, a great place to be in Q2. And it's still raining, unfortunately, so we do have to be prepared for that. But coming around the final corner for our first lap in this Q2 session, what's lap time going to be good enough for? It's a 1:37.4. Still a decent lap. We're beating Jolyon Palmer, but I do reckon I can still improve on that lap time, being dropped down to 8th position now. So not too bad first lap in qualifying, but the second lap so far is 8/10 quicker than our first one. So this is definitely going to move us up the standings. Unfortunately, we're down 10th, which is right at the bottom of the pack right at the moment, but that lap time pushes up into P3, a 1:36.5, and that should hopefully be safe to get us into Q3. But we're just going to have to wait and see how the track develops across the session, and it is good enough to get us into Q3 in P8, which is a fantastic result for us, and that means that we're going to be battling with the top 10 for pole position. Can we get pole position at this Hungarian Grand Prix? It's going to be difficult, but I do think that we definitely have a chance here today. First lap in qualifying, and it's a 1:36.3, our best lap so far in this qualifying session. It's only good enough for P2 right now, so it's a little bit disappointing not to get that P1. I think we were slow by about 9 thousandths of a second to Nico Rosberg. Here we are on lap 2, 5/10 quicker than our previous best lap time, coming down towards the line. What is this time going to be good enough for? It's going to get provisional pole. No, it's not quite. We're fastest through sector 3, but it's only good enough for P3 in this qualifying session, and 1/10 slower than Carlos Sainz at this stage of qualifying. Here we are, final lap of this qualifying session. We are currently 5 hundredths of a second quicker, jumping up to 1/10, jumping back down as we come across the line. I think we just about managed to get into the 1:35, so I'm not too sure. It's good enough for third position, which is still a fantastic result. Don't get me wrong, after last race's qualifying session, getting dropped out in Q1, to come back, get P3 in a wet session where we had to learn the track is still a fantastic result. And only 2/10 slower, well, 1.5 tenths slower than Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat. Both those guys very close to each other, so a little bit disappointing not to be involved in that battle or split the two Toro Rossos. So we need to do something in the race to try and overtake those two guys. But it's Carlos Sainz in pole position with his teammate Danny Kvyat alongside him in second. We're in third with Nico Rosberg alongside us. Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton line up on the third row with Fernando Alonso in 7th. Kevin Magnussen in 8th. Jenson Button in 9th. The McLarens doing a good job here today. And Max Verstappen lining up and rounding out the top 10. So can we get a third race win of this season? We're just going to have to wait and see as we head over to the race for the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's race day here at the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's nice and dry, which I'm not too sure what to think about this. You know, we did really well in that wet qualifying session, whereas in the Friday dry practice sessions, we struggled quite a bit. So unfortunately, we were probably hoping for rain here today, but that has not happened. But it's overcast conditions, so rain could definitely fall later on in the race. But it was a great qualifying session for us, starting in P3 on the grid, especially after having a terrible qualifying session in Britain, being down in 20th place. But looking at Drivers' Championship, after 10 rounds of the season, Carlos Sainz leads the way with ourselves in second. I think it's 22 points behind him at this stage of the season. In the Constructors, Toro Rosso still lead the way by a huge points margin over Force India, but we are slowly catching up that gap. So if we still carry on making the momentum that we're doing so far this season, then we can definitely catch up to Toro Rosso by the end and be in a Constructors' Championship battle. But they've recently upgraded the car, so we don't have to be worried about that. But starting P3 on the grid, looking at the race strategy for today's race, they want me to go super softs, then mediums. So we're just going to wait to see. We're going to select that strategy for now. Or we could go for the softs and then the mediums, do the one stop. But I think it would probably be best to go for the two-stop strategy, sort of match the AI, because we are racing with them. It's not like we need to do what we did in Britain, where we need to do one less pit stop. I think like going aggressive would definitely be a good way to go here today. But we'll see as the race goes on whether we can hold on to the tyres or not, and we can change our strategy up if we have to. But here we are getting away for the formation lap. A lot of wheel spin off the line, but we're just going to start to warm up the tyres, warm up the brakes, and head back to the starting grid. Here we are on the starting grid. It's round 10 of Season 3. The lights coming on. It's 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's an okay start compared to the two Toro Rossos, and Danny Kvyat has actually managed to get a good start for once in this Season 3. Going down in towards turn 1, side by side the two Toro Rossos go. Can we get anything there? There's a little bit of contact between the two of them. Unfortunately, though, not actually having a huge amount of contact, so we can't gain a position on either of them. But Carlos Sainz leads the way over his teammate Danny Kvyat, exactly the same as it was in qualifying. Sainz in first, Kvyat in second, and myself in third. So we need to try and push on this first lap to try and catch up to Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat. There was a yellow flag down in towards turn 1, so we'll have a look at a replay of that later on in the race. But let's just watch on board with this battle for the lead of the race. Unfortunately, just going through the corners, it looks like Carlos Sainz and Danny Kvyat, they have a better downforce on the car. That we lose the back end through the chicane, lose the back end of Danny Kvyat as well, and unfortunately that is the end of our battle for the race win. But let's have a look at the race start on board with, I think the Renault of Kevin Magnussen was the one who got involved with that challenge. So let's watch on board with the Renault going down in towards turn 1. He has a little bit of a twitch there as the Manor goes up the inside. Down in towards turn 1. Everything seems fine and okay at the moment. There's a little bit of contact there with a McLaren. Then he just cuts across a Red Bull and a Ferrari, puts his car into the wall. And luckily for him, his session is not over. But Kevin Magnussen's season goes from bad to worse. And Renault are definitely wishing that they still had me in the team. And here's a watch on board with him. He just cuts across Daniel Ricciardo and I think it was Kimi Raikkonen. And not too sure what he was doing there. He just lost the back end and then went to go back onto the racing line and just didn't realise that there were two drivers on the left-hand side and puts himself into the barrier. He's on board with one of those drivers, which is Max Verstappen. So you can just see the Renault cutting across, and it looks like actually Max Verstappen may have taken out his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. So let's watch on board with Daniel Ricciardo going down in towards turn 2. And yeah, there we go. Just a little bit of contact between the two of us as Max Verstappen does exactly the same as what Kevin Magnussen did. He was off the racing line, went back onto it where there was another driver, and unfortunately took out his own teammates. Let's watch on board with Daniel Ricciardo. And there is Max Verstappen as he tries to correct it, goes straight across Daniel Ricciardo, puts his teammate into the wall, and unfortunately for Daniel Ricciardo, he's lost quite a chunk of his front wing, so he'll be looking to pit very early on in this lap. So we're back on board with the action, cutting ahead to lap 4 now, on board with Valtteri Bottas, and he has had a left rear puncher in this Hungarian Grand Prix, possibly one of the worst times. I think he had literally just crossed where you could go into the pit lane, so that is the worst possible time that you could ever get a puncher in a race. You've got to do a whole lap with a puncture tyre at about 70 miles an hour max. So that's really unfortunate, but just everyone gets past very cleanly. This way it might be quite difficult. Or the Renault and the Red Bull getting very close there to Valtteri Bottas. But they all get past him very tidy indeed. So there is not going to be a collision like we have seen in previous seasons. But here we are on lap 6 at the moment. Nico Rosberg has closed up the gap to myself, and he'll be looking to go for an overtake, possibly down the start-finish straight. We know the slipstream and the DRS is very overpowered down this straight. So can Nico Rosberg do anything? He gets caught up behind me, going down in towards turn 1, but we run it wide, a little bit distracted by the Williams of Valtteri Bottas, who's just come out of the pit lane after getting that puncher, and now going side by side with the other Mercedes driver of Lewis Hamilton, side by side down in towards turn 1. Who's going to get the jump on him? It looks like I've just about managed to squeeze out a Lewis Hamilton for position, and now we'll possibly be able to go for an overtake on Nico Rosberg, who's been held up massively by Valtteri Bottas, going into his left-hander, and no, Nico Rosberg just cuts across us, and he's going for the corner. To be fair to him, he's just going for his normal racing line. We weren't far enough ahead for him to give us the room, and unfortunately we've damaged our front wing, now getting past Valtteri Bottas once again. Nico Rosberg going very slowly, very hesitant, overtaking the Williams driver, but we get through in the end, and unfortunately have that front wing damage on the front right. And is it going to affect us as we go through these corners? This is where it's going to affect us the most. So let's just have a look on board with us. And yeah, we're struggling. We are struggling massively to get the car turned in. So cutting to the end of lap 7, we have made the decision to come in to the pits for a new set of tyres and a new front wing. Getting it stopped very comfortably before the line there. So here we are coming into the pits for what should be a slow pit stop. And unfortunately, it's going to put us right down to the back of the field, as pretty sure the only drivers who have had to get a new front wing was Kevin Magnussen and Daniel Ricciardo as well. But we'll definitely be ahead of Valtteri Bottas because he's a lap down anyway, so we don't have to worry about that. But slow pit stop in the end. Looks like there's a couple of other drivers coming into the pits. This is around the usual pit stop as well. We were supposed to be coming into the pits on lap 8, so we haven't lost out too much time in terms of pitting too early. So we pitted sort of 1 lap early, so we should be okay in terms of tyre wear. But right down at the back of the field, it is going to be disappointing. And now we need to go push like hell to try and get a comeback drive and try and get back up into a point scoring position. But we're under threat now from our teammate Nico Hülkenberg. And at this point, I decided not to do anything to defend against him. We're not as quick as our teammate, and what would be the point of holding him up? We just struggled to get points for Force India, which are trying to catch up to Toro Rosso in the Constructors' Championship. So I decided to let him through, hope that he can push on now to go get some points in this championship and help Force India, which would have been a lot easier if Nico Hülkenberg didn't sort of move in the braking zone in towards turn 1. We nearly had to go into the back of him, damaging our front wing once again, but luckily for us, we were very aware going into that corner. We did not have the collision with Nico Hülkenberg. But here we are on board with Pascal Wehrlein now on the same lap. So this is exactly this around the same time as Nico Hülkenberg just got past us. Going down in towards his right-hander, and Pascal Wehrlein has had an engine failure in today's race, which means he's going to be out of the race. A little bit unfortunate. The man's reliability this season has been pretty good, so it's a bit of a surprise that Pascal Wehrlein is having an engine failure, but it's disappointing for him as Man are now starting to be a really good team in this season without anybody, like not myself, driving for them to upgrade their car. They're doing pretty good with upgrades, so well done to them, and they should hopefully be battling with us in the future. But unfortunately, losing the back end there and going a bit too deep down towards turn 1. That allows Felipe Massa up the inside, but just like with Nico Hülkenberg, there's not really too much point fighting, otherwise we'll just wear out the tyres too much, and we don't exactly want that at a track where, like Hungary, where tyre wear is really bad. So here we are on lap 14. Looks like Max Verstappen may have a problem, or because he's on the medium tyres, which have run since the start of the race, that he could be struggling because of that reason. So we're following behind him at the moment, looking to try and get past him, maybe down towards this left-hander, but Hungary is very tight. It's being compared to Monaco without the barriers, so it's very difficult to overtake here. And here we are on board with Jolyon Palmer, who goes up the inside. He sees us running a little bit wide into that corner as we try to go around the outside of Max Verstappen. And very opportunistic move there from Jolyon Palmer. He took the opportunity, he went up the inside, and he's taken that 11 plates from us. So now he's going to be batting with Max Verstappen for 10th position. So this is a battle for the points, and we would certainly like to get into that 10th position, because after running in P3 and getting that front wing damage, having to come into pits early, getting a longer pit stop, and losing out to all these guys. And here we go, up the inside of Max Verstappen there. Jolyon Palmer goes up the inside. We follow through and get that P11 away from him. Here we are now right behind Jolyon Palmer. We need to get past him, get up into the points, and hopefully get some more points in this race if other guys are coming into pits anytime soon. But like Max Verstappen, if anybody's on the same sort of strategy as he is, starting on those medium tyres, and we can certainly get past those guys. But here we are going down in towards turn 1, side by side with Max Verstappen, who has a little look around the outside. We're going to squeeze him out as much as we possibly can through this corner, and that seems to work a treat as we hold on to P11 in this race. Lap 15, 20 laps left to go in this race. There's still a long way left to go, and there's still definitely the opportunity to try and get in a good points paying position. But here we are on board with Felipe Nasr, getting involved with a battle with his teammate Roman Grosjean, I believe that is, and I think the McLaren of Jenson Button. There's a little bit of contact there. Oh, huge contact for Felipe Nasr. He has a bit of contact with his teammate, and then Jenson Button goes straight into the back of him, sending him into the wall. Let's watch on board with Felipe Nasr going down into his right hand. A little bit of contact there with his teammate, sends him into the barrier, loses his left front tyre, and that is the Sauber driver out of today's race. Watching on board with Jenson Button. So there's a little bit of contact with his teammate, Jenson Button. Unfortunately for the McLaren driver, just had nowhere to go at the end of the day, just going straight into the back of the Sauber driver, putting him into the wall, and that is Felipe Nasr being our second retirement of today's race. But here we are on lap 16, under pressure now from Kimi Räikkönen going down in towards turn 1. The Ferrari, unfortunately, so much quicker than us in a straight line with DRS and with Slipstream. Trying to hold it around the outside, but unfortunately we just can't do that. We were thinking about maybe doing a cutback move, but unfortunately we just braked a little bit too late to hold us side by side with Kimi Räikkönen through turn 1. So we unfortunately could not do that cutback move. But I don't think we would have been able to do it as well, because Kevin Magnussen was right behind us and he would have dived up the inside. We did that. Now we've run it wide through turn 4, and that's allowed Kevin Magnussen to go up the inside, and we're really struggling in today's Hungarian Grand Prix. We get the inside line into turn 5, so luckily we do get the position back on Kevin Magnussen, but we are really struggling in this Hungarian Grand Prix just with tyres. We don't really feel like we've got enough downforce in this circuit, so we're really struggling with the grip on track. And it's just a huge struggle in this dry conditions. If it was raining, it could have been a different story. We could have been doing a fantastic race, but unfortunately, that's just not the case at the moment. Now we're under pressure once again from Kevin Magnussen, going down in towards turn 1. We know that Renault's quick in a straight line after upgrading it so much in Season 1 and 2. And try and cutback move on Kevin Magnussen. We've been hit from behind. This race has gone from bad to worse. Let's have a look at a replay of exactly what happened on board with Esteban Gutierrez, who is currently running behind us, going down towards turn 1. We're going side by side with Kevin Magnussen. We try a bit of a cutback move, break it early. Esteban Gutierrez just clips us in the rear, and unfortunately puts us into a spin. And this race goes from bad to worse, and the AI are just a joke at this stage. I was so frustrated at that stage of the race, being down 16th place. batting for points, batting for third position, and it just seems we've gone so far backwards. But we're not going to give up. We're just going to keep on pushing and try and do what we can. We're currently running in P16. Daniel Ricciardo right behind us, and we're now actually under threat from the Red Bull driver of Daniel Ricciardo going through these next couple of corners. So it won't be long probably before Daniel Ricciardo gets past us. We run it wide into his corner. There's contact between the two of us. We've lost our front right tyre. We've gone into the barrier, and that is our race over. Really disappointing way to end the Hungarian Grand Prix. That's 2 DNFs here. They have been looking at a replay of what happened. A little bit of contact between myself and Daniel Ricciardo sends me into the barrier, loses me my front right tyre, and that is us out of the race. Here's another view off board, this time with Daniel Ricciardo going through this right hander once again. He sees the opportunity to go up the inside after we leave the door wide open for him, to be fair, but he could have given us more room on the outside. On board with him, let's see exactly what happened on board with Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, he does the normal racing line, but he doesn't really expect us to still be there. And unfortunately, that is us out of today's Hungarian Grand Prix. A really disappointing way to end it. And we would have liked to got points here, especially after starting in P3. We would have loved to get a race win, but that is a really unfortunate way to end today's race. Carlos Sainz as well being today's race winner. He's going to extend his lead of the championship by so many points. I think it's about 47 points is the gap at the moment between myself and Carlos Sainz, which is really disappointing. Danny Kvyat, he finished today's race in second to sort of keep his championship hopes alive, but he needs to start beating his teammate in order to do that. Nico Rosberg, he finished in third with Sebastian Vettel fourth, Lewis Hamilton in fifth, Nico Hulkenberg in sixth, Julian Palmer seventh, Kimi Räikkönen eighth, Rio Haryanto getting points here today, finishing in ninth, with Felipe Massa rounding out the top 10. Looking further down the field, Max Verstappen not having the best races, finishing down in 12th. Kevin Magnussen down in 13th position, despite that Renault being a really good car. He's really struggled over the last couple of races. Daniel Ricciardo down in 16th. He was the one who had contact with myself. We are down in 20th position with a DNF. The only 3 DNFs were myself, Felipe Nasr, and Pascal Wehrlein. But that's a really disappointing race for us. A really disappointing way to end today's race, not getting any points and getting crashed out by another driver. But let's have a look at how this affects us in the driver's standings, and it's not going to be good, and it's not good at all. The points gap at the moment between Carlos Sainz and myself is 47 points. That's a huge margin that we're going to have to try and catch up to the Toro Rosso team. But we're not going to give up on this championship. We've still got a long way left to go. 10 rounds of the season still left to go. So there is definitely the chance to make up the ground on Toro Rosso in terms of development and try and win our second World Drivers' Championship. But let's have a look at how this affects us in the Constructors' standings. And just like the Drivers' standings, we've lost huge ground on Toro Rosso. The gap now 115 points. I think it was like 85 or 80 something going into today's race. Unfortunately, that is a huge gap to lose out to Toro Rosso after they got a 1-2 here today. But that is it for today's Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's head back to the menus. Disappointing race then at the Hungarian Grand Prix to get our first DNF of this season and our first DNF for Force India as well. Looking at the resource points, unfortunately we only have 704 resource points. That's mainly because we had such a bad race that we didn't really get many resource points because of that. But we're going to head into the German Grand Prix next, and hopefully get enough resource points to maybe upgrade our engine power. If we can get that many, then that would be absolutely fantastic. If not, then we're going to have to save them, because upgrading our engine power is probably the best one to go for, especially heading into the Italian Grand Prix. So that is what we're going to do next. So yes, you can definitely look forward to us upgrading our engine power next, and hopefully just, you know, obliterating people down the straights at the Italian Grand Prix. But that is it for today's Hungarian Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to smash that like button. Also, subscribe to my channel if you are new around here, and I'll see you next time at the German Grand Prix. But until then, it's goodbye from me.